Assalamu alaikum. My dear students, how are you? I am fine. Hope all you are well with your family members. I am going to take your English first paper class. Today I am giving you some ideas on how to write a graph chart. Yes, I am talking about the question number 10 from English first paper. This is an item which is very much important in your exam. You can easily get 80% marks if you follow some rules or some techniques. Yes, I am talking about the graph chart, and I am giving you today a short but very effective techniques on how to develop, how to describe your graph chart in answering question number 10. So let's start. Welcome to our class, everybody. Before starting this class, I want to focus on particular chapter, particular categories of graph. You can see the two types of graph here. One is graph chart and another is pie chart. So in your coming exam, both are important and both are both are familiar to you. Yes. So students, let's start our class with a graph chart. You know, before starting this class, you have to know what is a graph. Graph is a chart, is a graphical representation of data in which the data is represented by symbols such as bar graph, such as line graph, such as pie chart. Yes. Now I am going to talk to you about some vocabularies. You may use it in answering this graph chart. I want to mention some particular words that are sharply, suddenly, rapidly, abruptly, dramatically, significantly, considerately, wildly, largely, slightly, gently, gradually, steadily, marginally, modestly, a small fraction, a small number, a large portion. All these words you have to use in your graph chart when you describe, and it differs one to another. When sometime you can use sharply, sometime you can use rapidly, and sometime you can use a small fraction or something like a small number of this type of phrase. Yes, you need to use some useful phrases to describe this graph chart, that is a significant or majority, nearby of it, almost 10 to 12%, this kinds of words you may use. In region of dot dot person, yes, you have to put some percentage according to the graph. More than a half, over a quarter, around two-thirds, more or less three-quarters, and some another phrases, that is exactly 1 in 10, approximately a third, a rise of growth or a peak of a fall or a decrease or a decline, a fluctuation of or a variation of. These all phrases you can use in describing a graph chart. So uh, you you have to describe. Remember one thing, don't draw the graph, don't draw the graph, just just describe, just explain what you see, what you have, the data, what you can see from the graph chart or from the question, how many category you have in the graph. Some, yes, I mentioned several times in the classes that you just use the main ideas or main point, or such as the theme of this graph. Don't use excessive or unnecessary words to describe this graph chart. So you can easily examine your right way to describe a graph. Now I am talking about the techniques or the something like that, that the way to describe. Yes, remember one thing, you have to use 3 paragraphs to describe a graph. First of all, start with the words that the graph or chart or pie line or pie chart or line graph or diagram shows what you have to put on this blank, that it indicates, it explains. Just put your information or title of the graph. Then second para, description. Yes, you have to describe or begin, you can begin with a statement that indicates or focuses the condition of this chart. And finally, finish all this description by repeating the main theme or trend in the last portion or the last line. Remember one thing, don't use the same sentence or vocabularies, or don't use number or opinion here. That is, you have to remember one thing, don't mention everything in the description part. Pick the biggest, the smallest, the main points in the middle of the description, in the middle of the graph chart. And you may group similar things together in one sentence. Yes, you can compare some data from this bird to another bird. You can examine or compare. Write about the ideas. I have mentioned several times that just write about the ideas. Don't use I feel, because it is very much formal in this regards. Don't use this word I feel, I know, I can understand, this type like that. And don't start sentence in describing any graph. Don't start sentences with but, so, or and also. Now I want to give you a question. Here you can see that the graph below shows the percentage of the number of internet users in towns and villages from 2004 to 2018. Here we have the two categories, the town and village. And town represent the blue color represents the town, you can see, and the red color represents village. You can see the percentage shows that, and the smallest part of the percentage is 3% or more, not more than 3%, and the biggest part of this statement is 50%. So let's have a look with these sample answers. Yes, here we have the sample answers. The graph indicates the percentages of the number of internet users in towns and villages. The survey period ranges from 2014 to 2018. Here the first para of this graph. The second, in describing part, I want to just examine or give the brief description. That is the graph covering these 5 years. You can see that the graph shows that the number of years is 5. Yes, the 5 years shows that the percentage of the number of internet user is rising rapidly and constantly. We use these two words, rapidly and constantly, in the first line. In 2014, the first year of the survey period, we see that the internet users in towns were 10% of the people, and it rose to 15% in the next year. Yes. On the other hand, the internet user in villages were only 3% of the total villagers in 2014, in which rose to 5% in 2015. In 2016, internet users rose from 15% to 20% in towns and from 5% to 8% in villages. The year 2017 shows the internet users to be 27% and 12% in towns and villages respectively. Here you can use this word respectively, that is very much related to the both towns and villages. The graph indicates the rapid increase of the internet users both in towns and villages. In 2018, we see that the number of internet users in town rose to 50%, which was 27% in the previous year, though the percentage of internet users in villages rapidly rising from 3% to 20% in last 5 years. It was small compared with the 50% users in towns. And in last para, we can see however, the tendency of using internet is increasing rapidly both in towns and villages. That is the very much important line, that the graph shows the increasing development of the user in towns and both in village. So, my dear students, if you want to get a very good number, just indicates and focuses on the particular lines that is very much construct and significant. I want to mention it again, that you can use the lines which is very much significant. So if you can follow these instructions, you may able to get a good marks. And lastly, I want to mention another thing, that you may use only 150, that is 150 words to describe a graph chart. So that's all for today. Before ending the classes, I am to give you the HW. You can have another graph chart. You want to answer and describe it, and you have to complete it So thank you very much for being with us in this class. Allah Hafiz.